unacceptable in Pakistan and therefore there's been no. So the suggestion that Mr. Chaudhary makes is, leave Pakistan outside, let there be sub-regional cooperation between India and Nepal, India and Bangladesh, India and Sri Lanka. That's the way forward. Would you agree, sir?
Sorry, I didn't necessarily leave
it.
Pakistan out.
I realize it. I'm asking him this question. Absolutely.
India out.
Absolutely. I'll ask Mr. Sawhney the other question.
Even if Mr. Chaudhary has said so, I tend to disagree with him. He said, he used the word does not gel. I'm sorry, Pakistan was formed in 1907, but before that, there is a history of 1,000 years gelling together. So that question of does not gel in does not arise. Yes, I agree with you. We have had a very checkered history politically. Sometimes it was the army, sometimes it was democracy, and then again the democracy was not allowed to function properly. They gave them half a chance and the governments were dismissed and again taken over. That's there. And that in a way created some problem for the political.
Do you believe in the idea of SAFTA? Do you believe it's feasible?
Yes, it is feasible. It's very much feasible. And the recent developments, especially in 2012, they bear testimony to it. When we moved from positive to a negative.
Only notionally. As far as the most favored, you've changed the nomenclature to non-discriminatory market access.
I'll address that question of most favored nation. I said it in India about 2 weeks back when you had the economic summit, that India should immediately be given the most favored nation. I said it as a president of the federation as well. And it was in that context when we had a FARC conclave under the patronage of Mr. Vikram Sahani, sir, who was the president of FARC at that time. I think all the 8 commerce ministers gathered. And from then the progress started moving. The trade has dramatically increased between the two countries. It's now hovering much below the potential. Now, the official trade between India and Pakistan is about $2.6 billion. But let me tell you, there is trade which is also taking place through a third country, that is Dubai. I know 3 steel mills, steel re-rolling mills are being here, but that does not account for in the official trade. They are being done through Dubai. Most favored nation status was agreed in 2012. It was also passed by the cabinet, and that's a documented fact. Yes, it's not been announced. And perhaps, I'm sitting on the media today, media had a very big role in that. They came up with very illogical arguments that MFN does not mean the most favorite or the most, it's the most favored. It's the interpretation, and then I think the government of Pakistan and India, they agreed on the
non-discriminatory
market access terminology. As a matter of fact, I think by signing GATT agreement by Pakistan, the basic concept of WTO was that each country will give the most favored nation status to the other country. There are no two opinions about it. I'll again urge from this platform to the Pakistan government that they should, because this is, no, let me tell you, this is being politically exploited as well, the terminology MFN. Prior to India giving MFN status to Pakistan, the balance of trade was in favor of Pakistan. But the day we got this status, MFN, the balance of trade shifted into India's favor. And I said earlier the government of Pakistan does it. Let's see the reversal. Presently, your exports to Pakistan, they are about $2.1 billion, and Pakistan exports to India are only hovering at about $500 million. So, again coming to this, I think at people-to-people level, between India and Pakistan, and I agree with him. It is the main hurdle in the development of SAARC are the two countries, India and Pakistan. They are holding the other six countries hostage. I said it yesterday at another platform. I'm repeating it today. And now that the both head of governments, you have a new Prime Minister, and I think Mr. Nawaz Sharif also took in May last year. I think they should sit and they should resolve this issue once and for all, not for the sake of two countries, but for the sake of their own people. 40% of the people in your country and my country are living below the poverty line. We owe it to them, and we owe it to our future generation as well.
Mr. Sawhney, it is true that India and Pakistan have held back SAFTA and any real form of SAARC cooperation, but the reality also is that the idea of SAFTA requires market integration between the South Asian neighborhood. We haven't been able to achieve market integration in India. Goods and services tax is not even a reality. It may become soon, but it isn't so far a reality. Is the idea of SAFTA then stillborn when there's hardly any market integration amongst our states, let alone between countries and integrating their economies?
As regards SAFTA, we all know that the intra-SAARC trade, intra-SAARC regional trade has been very low to about 6%. But why SAFTA has not been fully implemented? Of course, as earlier been said, a lot of bilateral issues between various countries held hostage. But I must clarify that as far as India is concerned, India have already allowed a zero duty import access to all the least developed countries in SAARC, except maybe few items like liquor and tobacco. All imports from the least developed countries from SAARC can be made to India at zero duty. But the main reason for the regional economic integration and not following the EU model is also the basic drawback is the connectivity. It starts with the movement of people. First people have to move, then goods will move. Although through SAARC chamber we have been able to get say 500 visas, but what is 500 SAARC visa exemption stickers? Can't be possible for the governments to identify few thousand bona fide businessmen, few thousand bona fide journalists, few thousand bona fide sportsmen, few thousand intellectuals, you know, who can be given a South Asian visa exemption sticker. Currently we were possible, it was possible through our efforts to get 500 SAARC visa exemption stickers for the bona fide businessmen of the SAARC countries. We welcome this beginning, but why 500? Why means there should not be any difficulty to identify more people, because people should move, and to encourage our tourism industry we must have a South Asian tourist permit or some kind of thing. So this is connectivity of airlines, people, mobile connectivity. Having said that, to answer your question again, why SAFTA and the trade and economic integration has not been there? Because we don't have reciprocal banks and financial institutions in each other countries. The transaction time between conducting a trade between two SAARC nations is maybe 10 times what if we import and export with Europe or US or any other region or South or the BRICS nation. So first is the financial connectivity. We must have the reciprocal bank branches, and we have also demanded that the trade in SAARC should be conducted in South Asian regional currency. Why we have to peg our currencies to euro and dollars and pay forward premiums? So why can't trade be conducted in South Asian clearing unit, reciprocal bank branches? And we have also demanded establishment of South Asian Development Bank. If there can be a BRICS bank, why can't we have a South Asian or a SAARC Development Bank which will fund the infrastructure projects? Now we are talking about the power projects, because nature has endowed the SAARC region with vast hydropower between Bhutan, Nepal and India. Why can't we have a multilateral joint ventures in power on a PPP model where private investors are ready to put in? But we should have an institutional framework, a conducive framework to facilitate that. So I think these type of measures are very important, but the foremost of that is early conclusion of multimodal transport. Like Mr. Chaudhary was saying, and Mr. Malik was saying, if we have to export from, say, Bangladesh to Nepal or Afghanistan to India, we don't have a multimodal transport, a road transport, a shipping multimodal transport for intra-SAARC trade, and we hope that during this SAARC summit, at least these basic agreements will be concluded to pave way for regional integration, which is we are a long way to go, as from the EU model, because that is one custom union. Another thing is we don't have harmonization of, codes. We have done some work on NTBs. We tried last year to make many committees to have harmonization of, standards of all the commodities and services. But we are still a long way to go. But EU is the perfect example of one custom union, one visa. So I think all these points, starting from SAARC visa to financial institutions, to multimodal transport, to reciprocal bank, South Asian Development Bank, and another thing is industrial corridors, because we have taken up with the Prime Minister of India that when he has announced the Amritsar-Calcutta corridor, why can't we have Afghanistan, Lahore, Amritsar, Calcutta, Dhaka corridor? Then the whole region can be integrated. So we have to think out of box, and SAARC with peace and prosperity as our slogan must move on.
Farooq Shoban, Binod Chaudhary has an interesting idea. He says that if you look for utopia, you'll have to wait for eternity. Instead, focus on sub-regionalism. This whole business of SAFTA as a free trade area will probably never come out because of political differences. And you were sitting in the audience in the morning and you saw how strong and stark the differences between the leaders of India and Pakistan were. Is that really the way forward? Improving ties between West Bengal, Bangladesh, India, Bangladesh, as opposed to trying to bring the entire South Asian region on board? Is it worth waiting for a situation where we can move towards an EU-style union, or is that impossible?
Rahul, let me begin with a little bit of history. In November 1979, that's exactly 35 years ago, I wrote the concept paper for SAARC. We then sent special envoys to the other 6 countries. We got strong support from 4. Interestingly enough, way back, and this was, I'm talking about 1980, 2 countries opposed the idea of SAARC. One was India, because India thought this was a move for the smaller countries in the region to gang up against India. And Pakistan opposed it because they thought India would dominate this organization. And here we are 35 years later, still trapped, if you like, in the India-Pakistan divide. Now what is the way out of this? And I think, we heard the president of Afghanistan today. The key to the success of the European community and later the European Union was the coal and steel agreement. What is it going to be in the case of South Asia? And the answer stares us in the face. It's energy cooperation. If we can operationalize TAPI, which I think is eminently doable, you then have a project which links Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh, incidentally, has applied to also join this pipeline. We now have a number of hydroelectric projects which, following Mr. Modi's visit to Nepal, are now very much on the table to be made operational. We have now India, through the Economic Framework Agreement, has opened the way for energy cooperation between Nepal, India, Bangladesh, between Bhutan, India, Bangladesh. We have
Mr. Shoban, let me ask you a question.
No, let me just finish this.
Yes.
So what we need now really is 1 or 2 success stories. I think I endorse whatever Mr. Soni has said. We see enormous opportunities, not so much coming out of trade, but removing the barriers to trade which will facilitate investment. If we look at the Sri Lankan India Free Trade Agreement, the success story of that has been Indian investments in Sri Lanka. Similarly, the opportunity I see, for example, in the Bangladesh-India trade agreement, which allows us duty-free access, is Indian investments. you then have Indian companies come investing in the smaller countries in the region and then re-exporting either back to India or servicing the local market or exporting to third countries.
Okay.
So the key is investment and the key is a demonstration effect, and I think it is eminently doable if we can get these connectivity agreements signed at this SAARC summit on multimodal transport, whether it's railways and roads, because those are the two key features. I think enormous opportunities open up. So my sense is that we are on the cusp of a major breakthrough. And I think it's really up to the leadership of the heads of government who are meeting just around the corner, so to speak, that we can get this breakthrough and that we can at long last achieve, if you like, the potential which clearly exists. And I'll conclude by saying that Mr. Soni said 6% is closer to 5%, the intra-regional trade. But all the documents and research that has been done on this area indicates that within 2 years we can take intra-regional trade from 5% to 25%. And it can really pull South Asia, which is mired in poverty, out of it.
You spoke of the way forward being through energy cooperation. Let's assume that there is indeed a pipeline coming from Afghanistan through Pakistan to India, and tomorrow there is some sort of a confrontation between India and Pakistan. And the Pakistani army decides to blow up this gas pipeline. And by then, India's dependence on this gas pipeline is a certain percentage of its total energy requirement. Then you'll have parts of India going completely dark. Now, how do you convince people back home? How do politicians convince people back home that this is a risk worth taking, given the fact that there are terror attacks still emanating from Pakistani soil, which India needs to deal with?
Well, again, 3 quick points, because I was given part of a very detailed presentation on the Tapi pipeline by the Asian Development Bank recently. And they have said very clearly that there's no problem in terms of financing. There's indeed no problem in terms of guaranteeing the security of the pipeline. The problem really that exists at the moment are 2 problems. One is the pricing issue, and indeed, as we were told earlier today by the President of Afghanistan, that problem has now been solved. So now we need to put in place an intra-governmental mechanism which will manage and operate the pipeline. And you know, the fact of the matter is that it will be a classic case of cutting your nose to spite someone else. The idea of the Pakistan army blowing it up, I mean, Pakistan itself will be a major loser. The other interesting thing is, yes, there could be terrorist attacks on it. What we were told is that it now takes, because there have been, you know, there are other pipelines within Pakistan itself. It takes, and there have been terrorist attacks on that pipeline. It takes them 24 hours to repair the damage to the pipeline. They say Pakistan now has more expertise than any other country in the world in repairing gas pipelines.
Mr. Gendalji, how does Bhutan view the idea of moving towards a South Asia free trade area? Do you think the focus, as Mr. Chaudhary says, should be on sub-regional economic cooperation? Or is it possible, you believe, given these political differences, to still push for a SAFTA?
Thank you so much. First of all, go back 25 years ago when I first attended the first South Chamber of Commerce meeting. And till then I'd heard stories about how the relationship between Pakistan and India. And the first meeting that I attended was actually a surprise to me, because amongst the 7 members that were there, the closest were the Pakistani and the Indian delegates. And outside the meeting hall, they got along brilliantly, speaking the same language, dinner time, singing songs. But the moment it came to the meeting hall, if India said yes, Pakistan said no. If India said no, Pakistan said yes. So I was really confused. about this whole situation. But then again, like I said, when you look at the EU history, within a short span of maybe around 11 years after the war, 6 countries, and from them 2 of them that had been involved on the other side, Italy and Germany, came together. What was the main reason they came together? It wasn't social issues, it wasn't women issues, it wasn't child issues, it was economics. If you look at the SARC, the foundation of SARC, the first SARC summit did not speak about economics as the agenda. The second one didn't speak about it. The third one didn't speak about it. I think it was the 7th SARC summit where they eventually decided that economics was important for the SARC region. So unless and until economics becomes a critical and a crucial factor for SARC, I don't think SARC is going to go forward. I think right now everyone is content within oneself. Even the business community, you have a very small percentage doing the intra-regional trade. There is no real need felt by the common people to force their governments to really seriously take up the challenge of realization of a SARC union. For Bhutan, we have the most fantastic free trade agreement with India. We are bordered by India in the south, east and west. So for us, SARC is not really important. We want to trade our goods. If we want to send it to Pakistan, if we want to send it to Maldives, if we want to send it to Sri Lanka, for business people it's not viable because the prices that we fetch in India is much better than when we send it. So just for the sake of bilateral agreements or multilateral agreements, there is no necessity for us to send our products from Bhutan to Sri Lanka or to Pakistan. But in the interest of being a union, I suppose it is necessary. And we need to start with small steps. And I think the first step, I think personally to go with, is actually looking at the sub-region. Bhutan, Bangladesh, Nepal, India, we have borders. We share borders. Transportation, movement of people, these are real issues. Non-tariff barriers, these are real issues. My issue for non-tariff barriers and transportation is not with Sri Lanka and Maldives, which has an ocean between the two of us. It's not with Pakistan, which has India between us. My issue is right now on ground. So I think just like how the EU started with 6 countries, then slowly progressed to 9, and then 12 to 15 to 20, to what it is today. So I think we need to look at a progressive way of seeing how we can ultimately realize a SARC union. Thank you.
Can I just add to that? Because Rahul, your question was, what is the case for sub-regional cooperation? And yes, the essence of sub-regional cooperation is geographical contiguity. So clearly, as Dasho Dorji pointed out, if we are going to engage in a hydroelectric project, it has to involve the countries that are geographically contiguous. So let's look upon sub-regional initiatives as a building block towards achieving a South Asian Economic Union. There are issues which will cover all the 8 member states, starting with connectivity and the removal of the tariff and non-tariff barriers. But there will be, if we get down to projects, then it has to be through sub-regional initiatives.
Now, Mr. Sani, you spoke about just opening up the borders, allowing people in. Now, the Indian government tried this when for cricket matches, fans from Pakistan were allowed in. 3 of them never went back. 2 were reportedly involved in terror attacks subsequently. Now, when this happens, that you trust and that trust ends up backfiring, then while businessmen like yourself, like Mr. Malik, would urge the governments to move towards greater people-to-people contact, there is a big question mark about whether it is safe to give all these visas.
For what we are recommending here is we are talking is trade and economics. What I'm saying is not difficult to find a, say 1,000 or 2,000 bona fide businessmen recommended by the various, vetted by respective chambers of commerce, which we are talking. We're not talking, and for example, the credible journalist, a credible sportsman. So I think 1 or 2 incidents should not held it as a hostage. We can have a scheme as the SAARC visa exemption sticker scheme is being worked out very properly. And also to say about India and Pakistan particularly, despite the very low ebb of quasi-political relations, I must say that India still hosted 2 months back the Lifestyle Pakistan show in Pragati Maidan, Delhi. So still at least...
To which there were many threats. Pardon? To which there were many threats and people wanted to shut it down.
Whatever threats, whatever. But what I mean to say that at least India has been trying to engage on the economic side, and we also as SAARC chamber, other chambers, we have been trying that we also, the Pakistan also hosted India show, 2 India shows in Lahore, which was of thumping success, and we have queues and queues of the people, our Pakistani brothers and sisters. We hosted 2 Lifestyle Pakistan. So what I'm saying, that trade and economics to integrate this region should not be held hostage by the bilateral quasi-political problem.
Mr. Manik, I have one question for you before we throw this open to the audience. The big difference between the European Union and whatever happens in the SAARC region is that India dominates SAARC like no country dominates Europe. 80% of the SAARC GDP is Indian. When you travel in Pakistan, amongst the hardliners, there's a fear that Indian business, if there is truly free trade between India and Pakistan, and if Indian companies come and invest in Pakistan, that Indian business will inundate and kill Pakistani enterprise. Do you think that's a real fear? How do you try and get the naysayers on board?
Okay. Actually, what I'm going to say now is not I'm getting into any blame game. Am I allowed to have an exhibition in Bombay? No. There are threats. There are extremists on both sides. Not in Pakistan alone. Last time we had an exhibition in Bombay and we had a lot of threats there to close down. And then Mr. Sani intervened and he's sitting next to me, what I'm saying.
But we made it happen.
We made it happen.
We made it happen for all the 6 days, despite whatever.
Exactly.
We made it a point that we stood with our Pakistani brothers shoulder to shoulder, and I was physically there for those 5 days.
And this is exactly what I'm going to say. The business community is going to make it happen. There are, European Union was born after 2 world wars. Did they stop? The world wars stop them from getting into a union? No. There was a resolve, there was a will, and there were common interests. And so do we have common interests. You touched on a very sensitive issue. I didn't want to make a comment on it. Movement of people. Yes, 3 people, okay, they didn't go back. But prior to that, there was the SAARC visa exemption sticker. The whole purpose of this sticker was defeated. The minute I landed in Delhi, they said, you please name the 3 cities you want to visit. That was not the idea behind issuing these stickers. Gradually, we again fought at the SAARC jointly, Sani Saab, myself and our other friends, and we got it removed, that restriction. So there have been problems on both sides. Trust deficit is the main thing. Yes, pipeline, okay, it might be blown up, but let me tell you, Pakistan Army, it's a very wrong concept. Definitely armies have their own interest in both the countries. What is stopping from the pullout from Siachen? Your political government was willing to withdraw it from there, but somebody intervened. But these are the areas we should not get into. Let's look at the common areas where we can move. We have moved, I've told you, from a meager figure of $386 million, we have reached about, and the potential and the indirect trade. We are having a 1,500 miles border with you. Okay, you want to have sub-regional group, that's also not a bad idea. But then you tried that. What happened to BIMSTEC? It's minor, Pakistan, all the SAARC countries are there. Has the economic integration taken place? Did we intervene to stop you from the BIMSTEC? No, we didn't. No, we have to carry. Did European Union leave Greece out because their economy has failed number of times? You have to compromise. We have hardliners on both sides of the divide, and we have to fight them out. We have to fight them out jointly because they are a threat to at least We are facing it. We are suffering for the last so many years because of the war on terror, and the spillover, I agree with you, has been in this area.
Okay. Let's take some questions from the audience. Who would like to ask the first question? Yes, the gentleman over there, right at the back.
Thank you, moderator. My name is
Just 1 second. I've asked the gentleman at the back to ask the first question. I'm coming to you next, sir. Just a moment. He has a mic. Don't worry.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Kripendra Amatya. I'm a student of fine art. I want to ask, thank you very much for your speeches, gentlemen. I want to ask a question that the European Union has a Eurozone and a single currency. If you want economic success, I think we should also have a single currency. That India, Nepal, Bangladesh can at least have a single currency and develop trade, economics, much higher level than before.
Mr. Chaudhary, is a single currency idea possible? Vinod sir.
Well,
No.
I'd love to see that happen, but the reality is that you can't exchange 1,000 rupee bill in Nepal, Indian rupee bill. That's a ground reality. It's because, again, you know, I mean, it's nice to talk about all the niceties and utopian, you know, issues. But the fact of life is that there are problems far more serious than what you and me believe. Because you cannot change that currency is because of not issue between India and Nepal. It's because of issues between India and Pakistan. I was listening to Mr. Puri today, I mean over lunch, that between India and Pakistan there is no free flow of newspapers, media. In today's world of internet, I mean from Dubai, India today has to go to Pakistan or something else. The movies, you talk of anything. So my colleague Mr. Malik may have the patience to wait for another 30 years, I don't. Okay? So I would certainly recommend and I would certainly advocate for parts of members of the SARC to work together wherever their interests meet. You call it whatever it is. With the blessings of the SARC, because SARC has not failed on all accounts. SARC has done brilliantly well when it comes to the cultural exchange, the social engagement. There are lots of areas. We wouldn't be sitting here if there was no SARC instrument. The leaders, it presents a beautiful platform for the leaders to meet if they want to talk sense and talk business. But today what is hindering is they must agree on all the issues together. And that doesn't happen. So I think the moment they agree that let this present a platform which will open the avenues to start real partnerships, okay? Let the focus shift from, you know, from just shaking hands of General Musharraf to Bajpayee ji, and today also there is a, you know, back in the heads of everyone here and in India and in Pakistan, whether Nawaz Sharif will meet with Mr. Modi or not. You know, these are the issues which is clouding the whole SARC processes. I think the focus has to shift that every time they meet, they make one or two breakthrough. Like my friend Farooq mentioned, maybe in the field of connectivity of roads. Let India provide us with unrestricted, unhindered access to Bangladesh, to Wagah, to Pakistan through Wagah. You know, let their differences be kept aside if they have that problem. You know, let the energy travel freely. If I have surplus energy in Nepal, let me export that to Bangladesh or bring gas from Bangladesh and generate cheap electricity here. We can't even agree on these basic issues. So I think a meeting like this needs to urge, I don't know whether any of those who are the real decision makers are watching this program, but I would certainly urge them to go back in the history and look once again.
You know, I found out later in New York that from the Prime Minister downwards, virtually the entire establishment had watched the India Today Global Roundtable at New York. So I hope they're doing the same here. Maybe not live, but
Fantastic.
later.
Fantastic.
Let's take the next question. Yes, the gentleman there.
Thank you very much. Actually, my questions are to Mr. Farooq Shobhan as well as to Bikramjit Singh. Actually, you have talked about visa facilitation and some other facilitation measures for enhancing the intra-SAARC trade that is very much relevant. What I see that the current 18th SAARC summit is supposed to sign the motor vehicle agreement as well as the railway agreement. We are talking about the multimodal transport. Actually, how much do you believe that these agreements, two pieces of agreement, will facilitate the movement of the multimodal transportations within the region? That is one question. Because to my understanding, only the motor vehicle agreement and the railway agreement is not sufficient. We should have export and import procedures, transit movement, transit agreement, and all these things, customs harmonization, so many things has to be linked up with the free flow of the
chandelier on
vehicle.
top is
That
shaking
is one
all
part. And another, you are talking about the visa
I hope
facilitation.
the hotel is sure it's not going to come crashing down. on us.
Actually, of course, in APEC there is what we call the APEC business travel card. Can we adopt the similar method that we have
The Dorji is very worried. He's sitting right below that chandelier.
Can we have the SAARC business travel card like in the fashion of APEC business travel card that will facilitate rather the SAARC visa exemption scheme, which of course there is a problem between Pakistan and India, I know from your presentation over here, but there is no problem in my opinion in other member countries for implementation of the SAARC visa exemption scheme. Can we go for SAARC business travel card like in the fashion of APEC business travel card, ABTC, rather than
Can there be a
visa-
SAARC
visa-
business travel
Can
card?
I,
Yes, Mr. Shoban.
In fact, last year I was commissioned by the Commonwealth in London to visit 6 countries to explore whether we could introduce something similar to the APEC business card.
That's what he's asking.
And I did visit India and I met Mr. Salman Khurshid, and I did visit Pakistan and I met the advisor for foreign affairs, Dr. Sartaj Aziz, and there was strong support for this. The process is very simple. In issuing the APEC business card, they carry out a security verification of the individual who applies for it. Once the security agencies clear it, he gets the card and it's valid for a 3 to 5 year period. And then you don't need a visa, you just have your APEC business card, which is like a visa. And there's no reason why we can't do that with the SAARC sticker. I mean, I think when I look back on my life, probably the only sensible initiative I have taken was to get the SAARC summit to agree that former foreign secretaries and their wives should get a SAARC sticker for the rest of their life. I got it through by simply telling my Pakistan and Indian colleagues that one day, very soon, both of you are going to retire, and do you want to go through the hassle of ringing up X, Y, and Z to get a visa? And you have no idea how quickly...
You are sorted for life.
How quickly I've got a visa for life now.
No, but
And
that's
there's
interesting.
no reason why
because
the
what
others
Mr.
can't get
Soni-
it.
No,
So
so
he's
all
lucky-
of you
he's-
ask for visas for yourself.
No, sir, he's lucky to
5,000
have-
businessmen so that we get visas.
He's lucky to have the SAARC visa for rest of life. For businessmen, the SAARC visa exemption sticker, which was for 1 year, has been reduced now to 3 months. And we were just talking about gender equality. Earlier spouses used to get, they have been removed. So already, you know, from 1 year, we are moving backwards to 3 months. So each businessman have to go for renewal of this.
So
we
the
hope it will
answer
be
is
brought back
you have to push
1
your
or 2
government.
years.
At one level, your government is saying they welcome more visas. But at an operational level, they are making it more difficult. It makes no sense.
So either you push your government or you become foreign secretary. Yes. That's
One
really
of the...
And about the trade connectivity, what the gentleman said, it is, you know, India have set up integrated check posts. Now we opened at Wagah, which is working out very well for Pakistan, Nepal. So I think the need is the multimodal transport, the multi-shipping, the shipping agreement would definitely pave way, as I gave the example earlier in my remarks, from Bangladesh to Nepal or for all these landlocked countries. But together with this, we want a SAARC
investment and trade protection agreement like Tapi gas pipeline and other which is multilateral and which can encourage the joint ventures in hydro, health sector, IT sector. So I think, and the financial institution, of course, the setting up of South Asian Development Bank and reciprocal bank branches in each other countries is very fundamental if the economic integration has to take
if
place.
you could build on the question about whether there's a fear or a concern amongst the smaller SAARC nations that if you were to open up the SAARC region for trade, and if Indian business comes and invests in your countries, is there a fear that Indian business will hurt local business interests?
Small countries need big markets. The whole world is vying for India as a market. Today in Bhutan, if I were restricted to doing trade and business within Bhutan, I have to sell products to a population of 700,000 people. But the very fact that now we have free trade with India opens up my market to 1.2 billion people. So on one hand, we can't say that we want a market of 1.2 billion, but we're not willing to open up our 700,000 market to the Indian businessmen. So I think it has to be reciprocal. And I think it is in the interest of small countries actually to want to do free trade with India. Because at the end of the day, even if they come to your country, you have then permission to do business with their country.
Okay. We'll take one more question, that will be the last. That lady over there.
Greetings everybody, I'm Nancy Hidan. And with due respect, I'd like to put some light on the fact that the EU model is not only about India and not only about Pakistan. What everybody seeks is a simple free trade path. So do you think the India-Pakistan conflict is a satisfactory excuse for the ones seeking for a simple free trade?
That's a very good question, Mr. Soni. If Germany and France, which went to war in a very bitter war, can overcome their trust deficit, why can India and Pakistan, in the larger interests of the entire SAARC region, you can almost feel the frustration in this room.
I'll tell you, when Mr. Nawaz Sharif took as the Prime Minister, I think about 15-20 days after his oath, we took a chartered flight and few of us went for an economic engagement. Mr. Malik was there. I personally, earlier also he was there. So first of all, as far as the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce, and as Binodji was talking, people-to-people contact, is so thick. And we didn't doubt the integrity of Nawaz Sharif because he was very pro. Even he discussed in our presence with the businessman the terminology of most favored nation. Then he said we will have a problem. Then we coined with this non-discriminatory, market access. He asked the Pakistani counterpart, the Commerce Secretary, the Commerce Minister, the present Commerce Minister, who later came to India. So what I mean to say that we feel a sense of, positivity is there, but sometimes we feel maybe he's not able to push this non-discriminatory market access and the other problems because
Why
something...
is he not able to push it, Mr. Malik?
Yes.
He's a businessman, he understands business, he understands free trade.
That this MFN is a misnomer. See,
but now you've changed the name.
No, please, bear with me for a minute. You have given MFN to Pakistan, but where my strength lies, that you have put in the negative list. I didn't want to raise this issue here, but look at your negative list. It's about 800 items there. Pakistan has a negative list of 1100 items. Look at the size of your economy, look at the size of my economy. And textile is the backbone of Pakistan, exports. You have put it in the negative list and put it on high. What good is that MFN to me? See, this is what I'm saying. We should still not lose hope in SAARC. Now SAARC, I'm talking as a region. SAARC has signed 42 agreements. Give me progress on each of them. It's lagging at the implementation stage, and this is the issue I raised yesterday again. What we need in SAARC is an implementation monitoring committee to see these 42 agreements which have been signed, what has been the progress on these items.
What makes you think a committee will change anything? We had lots of committees under Manmohan Singh.
No, this committee should be headed by the Prime Ministers themselves.
And include private sector of all the SAARC countries. It's the private sector which is the engine of growth, and in private sector lies the stability of this whole region.
I think the consensus here is that the quasi-political issues, the bilateral issues should not hold the trade and economic integration to a hostage.
No, but we've been
And
able
at
to
the-
forge this consensus in a panel mostly of businessmen. If a consensus
but,
of
I
this
think
nature
you
can
have
be
the youth-
forged
The
amongst
youth is with
politicians.
you.
The people are with
Nobody
you.
will oppose it, even politicians, the other stakeholders will never oppose. Everybody is saying, okay, let the bilateral, other quasi-political issues, but let the trade move on, economic integration move on, for the benefit of poor people, let the hydro potential be tapped, let the joint ventures come in health sector, so on and so forth.
Actually, I'll add to what Mr. Sani is saying. These political people, who brings them to power? It's our vote and it's our finances. I raised this issue in India. I said, we have a strong leverage. Stop financing them. If they are causing hindrance in the development of this region, the corporate sector should not finance.
But it doesn't change even if the
It will
government changes.
change. It will change.
No, I'm saying whether it's the
change has
PPP or
to
the
come.
PMNL, whether it's the Congress, the BJP, doesn't change.
No, the things will
So
change.
who do you finance then?
Who? No, nobody. If they are not following the agenda of the SAARC, the agenda of the people of this region, we shouldn't finance any one of them.
Because people of SAARC, the trade and business community of SAARC wants peace and prosperity.
Prosperity.
That is the bottom line.
That's a good,
And
that's
governments
a good
have to
note
hear.
to end this session on as well. Strong consensus amongst the people present over here and consensus also amongst the businessmen. You say that the politicians always support you and the idea of moving towards greater economic cooperation. If only they would walk the talk, then we'd find ways of increasing trade instead of just achieving the basics. Thank you all so much, all of you, for joining us.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting thoughts. And I think this has been a very thought-provoking conclave and a very thought-provoking session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Many thanks for being a part of the India Today Global Roundtable here in Kathmandu. May I request all of you to now join us for a cup of tea, and as we move for tea, we would like to thank our sponsors, presenting sponsors, Kent RO, and also AskMe.com. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. A cup of tea is waiting for you.